Good evening, and welcome to Wakefield Community Access Television. We're here tonight for the debate between the Town of Wakefield candidates for Town Treasurer. With me this evening is Brian Cusack, a longtime member of the Finance Committee, who is versed now in the role of the treasurer and what issues could arise, with this background in finance. We have four candidates with us tonight: Ed Dombrowski, Drew McCarthy, Mike McLean, and Pete McManama. Briefly, the rules are this. Each candidate will have a minute and 15 to give an opening statement. Brian will then ask, starting with Ed, a question that each candidate can respond to. They'll have 2 minutes to respond. I will keep an eye on them, so don't think I'm cruel. We have discussed ahead of time the proclivity of people running for office to go on and on. After that, depending upon time, how many time, as many questions as we can. We'll try and keep it even at the end. I may make some adjustments just for time's sake. And then each candidate will have 2 minutes to give a closing argument. So with that, why don't we kick things off? Mr. Cusack.
I think we've got some intros to do we not?
Oh, yeah, well, right, okay. I'm sorry. There we go, the first thing, keeping worried about the questions. Mr. Dombrowski, you're up.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Brian, and thank you, WCAT, for hosting, and thank you, everyone, for watching this evening as well. My name is Ed Dombrowski, and I'm running to be your next town treasurer. And I bring a unique skill set that is unique from anyone else sitting at this table this evening. I hope tonight we'll be able to talk a lot about what the role of the town treasurer is, but also what the role of the town treasurer is not. I know that it's often misunderstood, and a lot of folks are just curious as to what the town treasurer really does. Well, I hope to be able to talk about my own experience and what I plan to bring to the role, but most importantly, I want to be able to talk about you, because this is about your tax dollars, and it's about the prudent, responsible management of your tax dollars, because the assets of the town are the responsibility of the town treasurer. The town treasurer holds the checkbook. The town treasurer holds the assets under his or her domain. I want to be able to represent your interests. I want to protect all of our assets during a very precarious time for our community. We are during a time of tremendous change that I will be talking about over the course of this evening. I want to be able to bring my leadership, my proven record of working for you, and my operational management to the test to show you that I can be trusted and trustworthy.
Thank you.
With a very important role.
Thank you. Andrew.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, WCAT, for hosting, and for all of you for watching. My name is Andrew McCarthy, also a candidate for town treasurer. I'm an apolitical resident, Wakefield roots. I come from a family that's passionate about public service, particularly in Wakefield. Professionally, I work for one of the largest law firms in Boston, and I'm responsible for an investment portfolio of nearly $4 billion. By rough math, I think that's roughly 40 times the Wakefield's operating budget annually. I think I can bring a lot of that experience to bear, as Ed pointed out, when it comes to the responsible stewardship of your tax dollars going forward. Again, I appreciate your time, look forward to your consideration, and I'd love to be a part of the long-term solution in Wakefield.
Thank you. Mike?
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, WCAT. Wakefield voters, my name is Mike McLean. I'm the current chair of the Town Council. I'm also a past member and chair of the Wakefield Board of Assessors. As Councilor Dombrowski said, I too have a unique set of talents. I am actually a certified public accountant and an attorney. I have a lot of experience in the law. I had a 20-year private practice experience, including some time in banking. And I've also worked now for 23 years for the IRS. I am what is called an independent Office of Appeals team case leader working on the largest cases, international and domestic tax in the country. I'm independent, as Drew said. I'm fiercely independent, and I have always been known to be. I'm a 35-year resident of Wakefield, living on Fairmount Ave with my wife and raising my family there and paying taxes there. The job of the treasurer is to take in all funds and to be entrusted with all funds, including investment decisions. We need a steady hand. I believe I am that steady hand, and I ask for your vote, and we'll continue to ask for your vote tonight. Thank you.
Pete?
Thank you, everyone. My name is Peter McManama, and I'm a finance professional running for town treasurer on April 22nd. My wife Linda and I have lived in Wakefield for almost 38 years. Our 3 children, Tom, Jenny, and Jeff, have all gone through the Wakefield school system and have graduated from Wakefield Memorial High School. My wife Linda is very active in the community in WEF, in TSF. I've been a member of FinCom. I was a member of FinCom for 3 terms in 9 years, where I was the chair of the subcommittee for the school budget. I was also the chair for the subcommittee of the library budget. There are 2 main areas I want to talk about tonight, Wednesday night, and the next 2 weeks before the election, that I think are of critical importance. They have to do with qualifications and they have to do with commitment. Specifically, in regards to qualifications, I think it is imperative that the next town treasurer be a savvy, polished finance professional with all of the skills to help us navigate through these challenging times, specifically as our debt is increasing from 62 million to 250 million.
Thank
The other
you.
topic I want to talk about is commitment, that I'll be 100% committed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, before we start, I just want to point out, I've been doing this for 20 years, and usually we have 3 panelists and 7 candidates, and I have to sit here and figure out who's asking the questions to rotate to go over. So this year, it's so simple that I screwed it up right away. Right away. It was way too simple. I'm sitting here thinking, wait a minute, who's going to ask the question first like that? All right, you're off, Chief.
Ed, what I'd like you to do is summarize your educational and professional background and how and why that will help you be an effective treasurer.
Certainly. So I am a graduate of Union College, where I then went on to Boston University School of Law, earned my degree in law. I currently am a business owner. I own a law firm in downtown Boston. And my professional experience has really positioned me well for this position because I have been, as a business owner, charged with having to oversee, at this point, I'd say nearly thousands of what are called IOLTA accounts. And these are accounts that you have to set up for every client that you have. And it is imperative, they are strictly regulated accounts. It's imperative that you maintain those accounts at all times to the penny. And I've been an attorney now for 23 years. I've never once had an issue relative to management of those accounts. And that speaks to my ability to appreciate the magnitude and the trust that's instilled in me by many of my clients. I bring to this position extensive municipal experience. I have the most municipal finance experience of anyone running in this race. That matters. Anyone that knows me knows that I'm a straight shooter. I care about the taxpayer and the tax dollars. The treasurer is the one that is charged with maintaining all of the assets of this community. The assets of this community are your tax dollars. You have heard me ask the tough questions. You have heard me do the deep dives. I have been auditioning or interviewing for this role for the past 11 years. My municipal finance experience began at FinCom, and it's now worked its way through to the present, 11 budget cycles later. That's important. I understand the challenges that we face within our community. I understand that we have a tremendous change afoot. I also understand that we are facing the largest borrowing in our town's history at $208 million. All the while, our entire finance team
Thank you.
will be leaving.
Thank you.
Drew,
Drew.
do you need me to restate the question or are you good?
Restate it for me if you don't mind.
Yes, Your Honor. Please summarize your educational and professional background and how or why that will help you be an effective treasurer.
Sure. So I graduated from Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut with a double major in economics and public policy. And I immediately kind of moved back to Wakefield, the Boston area, and went to work in the finance industry in the city. The most notable experience that's relevant to this conversation today is I worked at Cambridge Associates, which is the largest institutional consultant in the country, possibly in the world, helping municipalities and sovereign wealth funds solve their cash management challenges, questions, whatever whatever their particular issue may be, sort of like the things we're talking about today. And now I'm, again, the director of research at a $4 billion investment firm, again, handling asset allocation, cash management, all those sort of investment decisions. And I think what will come through in the conversation today is that a couple of us have a background in investment and financial management, and some of us have a background in public service. And I think what I'd like to lean on and have folks walk away with today is that this role is not a policy-making role. While I respect the concerns about debt, and they very well may be correct, I think those issues are properly addressed in town council and at town meeting. The treasurer's role, and I think there's a lot of confusion around this, as some of us started out by saying, is much more focused on managing the cash according to the decisions that have been made at town meeting and by town council. It's not a policy-making position on its own. I think if you look at that on its merits and focus on the financial aspect of that job, my qualifications, I think, put me ahead of these guys respectfully.
Mike?
My education background is that I received a BBA in accounting from Siena College in Loudonville, New York, upstate. And then I went to BC Law School from 1980 to 1983. So I've been at this for a while. I was in private practice for approximately 20 years. I have been a trustee. I've been a trustee on private charitable funds, co-trustee. I've been a trustee I was a trustee for about a decade on the Wyoming Lodge permanent funds. I know what the difference between investing for myself and investing as a trustee. I have also a certified public accountant. If you look at the job description, if you go to the Wakefield webpage for this job, you will see that it involves accounting and it involves law. There's tax titles, there are various Mass General Law statutes that have to be complied with. And this mixture has worked for 21 years with Drew's uncle. I basically have a very similar background. I've also been on the supervisory committee of the Hanscom Federal Credit Union, which is over $1 billion in assets when I was there, and that was a few years back. And I've also worked for two banks, Ipswich Bank, Mass Cooperative. I have mortgage experience, I have lending experience, I have closing experience, I have litigation, arbitration, mediation experience. So I have a broad range of experience, and I think that that is a better position, going to be a better mix for this particular job. There's a lot of talent at this table, but you have to decide who do you want overseeing all of the funds and accounting for all of the funds in this town, and I think that I'm that person. Thank you.
Pete?
Hi. I started my career, I went to Boston College where I got a degree in economics, and then I went to Babson where I got my MBA with a concentration in finance. And then I worked for 5 years for the Fleet Bank as a lockbox operations manager, where our number one customer was the city of Boston, where we met their cash management needs, where we processed their real estate bills and their excise bills. After doing that for 5 years, I moved on to First Data Investor Services, which is a subsidiary of American Express, where I was a cash manager, where I managed the daily cash position every single day, where I processed the cash receipts, I created the cash journal, I passed the cash on to be deposited at the bank, I passed the cash journal over to be posted to the general ledger, to the accounting folks, and then I did the daily reconciliation between the three. So I did that for 5 years as a cash manager. Then I went in and I pivoted over to a more broader range where I worked for Principal Financial as a controller, having full financial reporting and analysis responsibilities, creating the financial statements, presenting to the regulators, presenting to the rating agencies, and managing the teams that did that. Then I moved on to John Hancock, to Manulife, which purchased John Hancock, where I had multiple positions over 23 years of not only managing the quarterly close process, generating the financial statements, presenting the financial statements to the regulators, and then meeting with the rating agencies. And on top of that, not only did I do the hands-on work and manage the work, but over the last 5 or 6 years, I have been part of teams that have created, developed, designed and implemented financial systems with all the controls. Thank you.
Very good. Okay, ready for the second round.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's simple this year. I think it's Andrew.
it is in fact Andrew.
There we go.
And the question is this. Please summarize what you consider to be the major duties of the town treasurer.
Sure. So the major duties of the town treasurer, and I think most of this is pulled from the website, as Mike alluded to. First is responsible stewardship of the capital that we have, accounting, and there is a legal and sort of a compliance aspect to the role as well. I think that, again, I'm leaning on my investment experience primarily as my qualification for this role. In the jobs that I have currently, there is a heavy legal and compliance aspect to it, so I'm familiar with a lot of the rules and regulations that will be relevant here through both my personal experience and through sort of preparing for this opportunity and making sure I'm ready for it when it comes. So I feel like I'm in a good position from that perspective. I think the most important thing, and Ed alluded to this in his opening statement, is this is your tax dollars, and our job is responsible stewardship here. And again, I come back to the cash management aspect of what we do, responsible investing from a municipal bond perspective, which I think I can bring unique perspective to, having run $1 billion-ish municipal bond portfolio in a prior life. So I think there's a lot that I can do, again, focused on the financial management aspect of the role and within the rules and regulations that exist.
Okay,
Thank you.
Mike?
This is the major functions.
Right. Summarize the major duties of the town treasurer as you understand them.
Yep. The town treasurer is responsible for the receipt of all town funds, period. The town treasurer also has legal duties, and some of them include tax title. I think having a legal background is important in that regard. Payroll, benefits, investments. I invested in my first stock when I was 13 with paper route money. True story. And I am constantly following the market, so even though I may not have a degree in finance, if you have a degree in accounting and you've been in the business as long as I've been in business, both public and private, you know, you gain some of this experience. As I said, I've served as a trustee. The trustee is basically, this is a function of the treasurer, because the treasurer is given the trust of all the funds of the town. The treasurer also needs to pay over those funds to the town accountant. Now, cash management, as mentioned by my finance friends here, is of course important, but that's not all of the picture. You know, you have to interact with the town accountant. I think I'm probably the only town councilor that's ever reviewed our certified financial reports, but I get them from the town accountant, and I work with him on a regular basis as being chair of the town council, as I do with, you know, the town administrator. So, you know, the treasurer is not, he's not in a silo. The treasurer is going to be working with all of the town officials, including the school department. I mean, payroll is what, 2/3 usually of our budget. Our budget's total is over 100 million. We are a big business. So, you know, somebody that understands payroll is, you know, as Councilor Dombrowski indicated, he's done it, I've done it, all of us that have been in business have done it. This is a larger payroll, but basically we have HR, we have various departments in the town. And the one thing I want to say too is the treasurer's job is not a part-time job. And people who have busy law practices or a steady daytime job are not going to be putting in the time that a couple of retired people like Peter or myself. I'm not retired, but I will retire if I'm elected.
Pete?
Thank you. First and foremost, the most important thing, one of the most important things for a town treasurer or anybody that is on a financial management team is to insert themselves into that financial management team, that leadership team. They have to be an effective collaborator, team leader, and put team first and put town first. As far as the specific tasks or responsibilities, they are, as far as managing the cash. Cash is so important. It is the foundation of our financial statements, our financial reporting, in being able to build the systems, manage the systems that take in the cash, process the cash, reconciling the cash, so that down the road it gets accurately and timely reported down the road in the financial systems. And it's imperative that a savvy financial person, finance professional, be involved or be there to go ahead and build all the checks and balances that need to be done, because the stakes are so high, as we've already mentioned, with all the increased scrutiny that is going to be on the town financials as a result of the changing nature of our balance sheet, specifically in regards to the debt position and as it's increased. Debt is important, and debt management is even more important. It's okay that our debt is going to go up to almost $250 million. The rating agency already knows about that, but they've given us a cautionary comment that they're going to be watching us closely, that we manage that very closely and effectively. And I think I have all of the skills to do that. Thank you, and the experience.
Ed.
The most important duties of the treasurer are transparency and trustworthiness. Bottom line. That's what matters more than anything else. This is an operational role, to be clear. There is a distinction between what the treasurer does and what the town accountant does. So you hear a lot of references to accounting and a lot of references to finance generally. There are specific functions the treasurer does and separate functions that the town accountant does. We already have a town accountant. There is a check and balance in place that is established by having treasury and accounting as separate functions. And one thing that we haven't heard anything about yet tonight is the fact that this is not a one-person operation. Treasury is a department. Treasury has two individuals, Susan and Kim, who are excellent at their job. They've come in, they've innovated, and they manage a lot of what goes on day to day relative to making sure we reconcile. We're talking on a given month, there are like well over 1,000 different receipts that are coming in, because every town department basically flows through the Treasury, the Treasurer's office. Every deposit that's made, the Treasurer's office actually makes deposits for certain of our departments and functions. So that's an important piece of this. The fact that we are now here and many folks watching tonight don't know what the treasurer does tells me that we can focus on transparency. I think we have an opportunity here to be able to make the treasurer more visible, more accessible, and more transparent in the way in which the treasurer operates. And you heard about what this role is. Well, we know that you can manage a successful business and still be treasurer, because the current treasurer has been doing it for 21 years. So this notion that you have to stop everything you're doing just to be town treasurer is not accurate. In fact, I think you lose perspective when you do that. I do run a business, successfully so.
Thank you.
Okay, we're ready for the next question.
Yeah.
Okay, so the question is multi-part. Are you otherwise employed currently, and do you plan to continue to have that other job? How much time each week do you plan on devoting to the role of treasurer? And if you could just talk a little bit about how you plan to balance the demand, if that in fact is the case.
That would be to me. Yeah, as I've stated, I'm currently fully employed by the IRS Office of Appeals in Boston. I work in the Tip O'Neill building. I will put in for immediate retirement if I am elected. I intend to put in full time on this job. You know, I'm probably doing on town council 15 hours or 20 a week unpaid. So 35, 40 hours I can do standing on my head. I think I disagree with Councilor Dombrowski. I think this is a situation where people in town are already talking about it. They're saying, well, what is this job? And you know, why are they getting this money? And do we even need it? It's a waste of taxpayers' money. It's not, but they have a point when they say that this has been a part-time job for someone, for, you know, the current treasurer for years and years and years. So yes, it can be done as a part-time job. What I'm offering is that I will take a significant pay cut if I'm elected, and I will do this job. I'll get myself off the train, and I will be, you know, in Wakefield every day. Thank you.
Thank you. Great question. As I said at the outset, there were two main topics I want to focus on tonight in the next 2 weeks. One was qualifications, the other one was commitment. So this question addresses the question about commitment. I'm pivoting away from my job at John Hancock after 23 years. I pivot away this Thursday on April 10th. After that, I will be able to provide 100% of my professional bandwidth to the position of town treasurer. If I'm fortunate enough to be elected, I will show up on April 23rd with full of positive, youthful energy, ready to make that commitment. And I agree with Ed. There's an opportunity here for more visibility for the town treasurer. That's something that I've always been an advocate for, because what I've found here is when I've been talking to people in the street, talking about the election, and through no fault of their own, there are people who are just so busy, they don't understand what's going on with the town. They've got 2 kids in elementary school, they're both working, and we need to come up with an idea or a way that we can communicate to them in a very simple format and approach and be more visible. And that is one of the things that, again, I will give 100% of my time. And one of the side objectives I would have is to help be more visible and help have lunch and learns and sessions to help them understand in a very simple, concise, here are the 3 things you need to know type of format, whether it be on videos or on the internet. So as far as that question, I'm 100%. I'll give 100% of my time on April 23rd, and I think that's a huge distinguishing factor here, and it is so important as the complexities of our financial statements, our balance sheet, managing our debt and assets is getting more complex. Thank you. Great question.
Thanks.
Mr. Dombrowski.
Thank you. So I run a business. I have great flexibility being the owner of that business, and I have a great team in place, and that matters. And that's the sort of leadership that I want to be able to bring to this role as well. As I indicated, Treasury is not one person. The Treasurer's office is a department of 3. I have that leadership experience. I will give 110% of myself to this role, as I've given 110% of myself to every role that I've held within this community. For the last 11 years, I have dedicated myself as a public servant, first on the Finance Committee, and then more recently on Town Council, now in my 3rd term. I don't think there's a person watching tonight that would question my ability or commitment to this community. I have a proven record of delivering results for you, and that's what I plan to do in this role. And it's a really important time, because it's not a question of whether you're punching the clock for a certain number of hours per week. It's a question of what you're doing to do the job well, and how you're making sure you're protecting taxpayer dollars. And if that takes 15 hours or 65 hours, you do it. And not every week's going to be the same, because the nature of this job is not the same. We have, when we're meeting, for instance, with bond rating agencies to preserve our AAA bond rating, the highest rating we can have that has saved taxpayers millions of dollars. For the entirety of my public service to this community, 11 years, I've presided over that AAA bond rating. That is something that is critical. That's not something you just show up to an office for. That's something you work for. You work nights, weekends, and of course, all during the workday to make that happen. Fortunately, I live right around the corner from this office, and I'm committed to giving all of my time, as much as needed, to do it well, because that's what you deserve, and that's what you should be looking for in the person you're looking to hire for this role.
Thank you.
Drew.
Yes, so similar to Ed, I am currently employed, and I don't plan to give up that role if elected. Similar to Ed, full confidence that I have the ability to balance both responsibilities, with the focus, of course, being on Wakefield and their taxpayer dollars. Fortunately, again, work with a big team that's supportive of this effort, and quite frankly, understands my passion for everything Wakefield, and have been kind of fully behind me in this effort, and I expect that that'll continue. As for sort of the conversation around the retirement job and whether this should be that, I feel strongly that it's important that whoever has this role keeps engagements in the investment community and the broader financial community, so that we can do things like thoughtfully manage leverage and maintain our AAA bond rating and raise capital thoughtfully. I think what I do day to day will actually make me better for this role than if I were to retire and do it full time. The other thing I would note that is, if this were to be a full-time job and a search was put out for it, I'm confident that somebody with a resume like mine, having managed billions of dollars, billions of cash in municipal settings, sovereign wealth settings, I think that's the type of person that we would look for. A lot of the attorney functions that have been brought up here are outsourced, as many of you may know, to firms like Coppola and Coppola. So I think, again, my balance, the professional experience in Boston, the community service as I view this here, I think that's actually the best mix for the job.
Thank you.
Okay, I just want to if I can go back through the candidates again, how many hours do you estimate the job requires that you will put in?
How many hours would I put in? I would estimate that it would be during town working hours, approximately 35 to 40.
It would definitely be 35 to 40 at least, especially for the first year until I fully ramp up. Thank you.
As many hours as it takes. Period. Nights, weekends, all work days, whatever it takes.
Okay.
As many hours as it takes, that's the answer that I think has been the answer for the last 40 years. There hasn't been a consistent, you had to be there for 40 hours, you just do what they need you to do, and that's what I would do as well.
There's another aspect of this that I think the folks on the town council have seen, and that is the idea that oftentimes there are meetings in the evening and other odd parts of the day that are part of and parcel to this job. So that's something to stay on top of too. Okay, next question, and we're going to start with Pete, right? Yeah, okay. How would you interact with the town administrator and the town accountant, especially in light of the expected changes in leadership? And also, as the treasurer is an elected position and does not actually report to the town administrator, how do you expect to keep communication lines open, especially as this relates to bond issuance?
Sure. Well, I think that it's a critical point that needs to be addressed, recognizing that we're losing, I think, a combined 37 years of leadership and experience between John McCarthy and Steve Mayo. But I think it's first, like I would do when I enter any other new department or new project, I would have to read the room. And I have a very good sense of reading the room and looking at who brings what to the table. And I would clearly outline my strengths, my skills, my experience, what I bring to the table, and also bring in my experience. Again, these two new, well, at least the new town administrator is new. I would have to bring in what I brought to the table in FinCom and also through my 38 years as a finance professional. But I think it's very important to have a good sense of what we each bring to the table, be good listeners, drop the ego, and then be able to assess what value we're all going to add and how we're going to work together. So again, there are definitely, as Ed and others have mentioned, there are clear-cut segregation of duties between the town accountant, the town administrator, and the town treasurer. And it's the town treasurer's responsibility to do all the specific technical cash flow forecasting, manage the cash, and turn over to the general ledger, to Kevin, the town accountant, and also support the town administrator.
Thank you. Ed.
I think one of the best ways for folks at home to understand what the town treasurer does is, if you think about your own finances, and you have a situation where maybe you've written a number of checks, you want to make sure there's enough balance in your checking account to cover those, right? But you don't want to put too much in if it's a non-interest bearing account, because you want to be able to invest that maybe in a savings account or a money market account or somewhere else. That's essentially what the town treasurer is doing, but at a much grander scale. And you need to make sure you balance that. You need to make sure that you have that cash book that's able to do that. So that's really what that function is. But with respect to bonds, I'm glad you raised that, because as I mentioned at the opening, we are at a critical time because we are facing the largest expenditure in our town's history. $208 million towards the new high school, which in total cost $270 million. Thus far, we have borrowed about $108 million, meaning we have another $108 million to borrow. Why does that matter for the town treasurer? Because the town treasurer is an integral part of the finance team that is involved with securing the best borrowing rates that we can. How do we do that? In large part because we have a AAA bond rating. That's the highest you can have. From a credit score, that's like an 800 credit score as an individual. What does that mean for you? It means you get the most favorable borrowing rates. Someplace like Stoneham, AA plus bond rating, not getting as favorable rates. That impacts your tax dollars, because if we drop that AAA bond rating, we actually then end up in a situation where we are paying more money to borrow money. That is more tax dollars that end up being wasted. So when we're talking about this finance team, town administrator, town accountant, town treasurer, that matters, because without that structure in place, that financial leadership in place, we don't have the impressive credentials that they're looking for when we're borrowing.
Thank you.
True.
Yeah, Brian, so to address the question around how to work with the town administrator and the town accountant, I think it really comes down to relationship building and working one-on-one and getting to know the people and being thoughtful. And I think having a proven track record professionally of kind of being able to work in team settings successfully, not necessarily be partisan, to see two sides of a discussion and sort of come to a consensus, I think is going to be particularly important in this role. Because again, the treasurer's role is not a policy-making role. It's part of a broader system where there's a town accountant who's a CPA, and who can sort of, everybody brings their best skills to bear. In the case of the treasurer, it's the thoughtful management and, as Ed pointed out, investment of cash. The bond rating is an incredibly important component of that. Hilltop Securities is sort of our underwriter in that space. And I look forward to engaging with them and others to sort of make sure we can get the best deal possible for Wakefield in partnership with whoever the town administrator and whoever the town accountant may be.
Brian, one correction, the town accountant is not a CPA, but he's good. I work cooperatively with people, Brian. I set up teams of sometimes 25 people, including economists, financial product specialists, engineers, experts of all sorts. That's the kind of background that I have working cooperatively with others. What's going to happen here, we really should focus on the current situation, because there are two individuals at the table tonight that have very current town budgeting experience. I have 4 years because I won the special election in 22, so 2, 3, 4, and 5. We also have a situation, as Councilor Dombrowski said, where we're going to be losing our 17-year town administrator. So it's very important that we have somebody with the legacy knowledge, and in my case, my term is up. So if I win, we don't have a special election. If Councilor Dombrowski wins, we do. And then we have a gap while we're hiring, while the next council following me is hiring the next person. We have a person already set up to take over ultimately for Kevin. I've worked with Kevin. I walk in with Kevin and I ask to see, how are we doing on interest, this year? I mean, you have to be able to talk to an accountant, right? And I'm an accountant and I can talk to an accountant. You have to be able to work with the town administrator. We've had great success this year. We passed the 48 compromise. We put $1 million of solar on top of the Galvin. Those are actual results. And that's what I do. I get results. And I'm going to be in that room. And you have to decide which of these 4 individuals you want in there with the bonding company. Now, I hear the arguments from my finance friends. However, our current treasurer, for all these years we've had the AAA bond rating, has been an attorney and a CPA. And that's my background. And I have a significant tax background and a significant finance background myself, although it may not be exactly what these gentlemen are doing. So you need to work cooperatively. And I'll work cooperatively with the staff that works for the treasurer. People don't work for me. They work with me. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, I know nothing about math, could never qualify for this job. But this will be our last question, okay? That'll give us time to, we
Do the wrap up.
Yeah, if there's a 1-minute question in between, we'll see how that goes. But right now, just so you know.
Okay. Then let me just pick
Yeah,
the right
pick out
one.
your real gem.
Okay. So given the uneven and sometimes insufficient or delayed state funding and the annual increases in our town's budget requests, how would you manage the town's AAA rating? What would you do to protect that? And how could you get the mechanisms currently in place in town to make that happen? And I think we're back to starting with Ed.
Important question. What I would do to get the mechanisms in place is what I've already been doing in my town council role as starters. When I was chair of the town council, I brought back the tri-board meeting. that was something that was really important because it brought school committee, finance committee, and town council together. Why? Because it's important that we're all on the same page, we're all messaging and understanding what our financial position is. Why does that matter? Because a big part of the tri-board meeting is forecasting. Financial forecasting is a critically important part of what the town treasurer does, because that speaks directly to what our bond rating agencies look at. They want to look at to make sure we have a solid financial leadership team in place. We're losing the town accountant, town administrator, and town treasurer. That, to my account, is nearly 60 years of combined experience. I bring the most municipal financial experience to this role. That matters. Private finance and municipal finance are very different things. So you can hear big numbers, but they're governed in totally different ways, different laws, different compliance, everything of the sort. So what I'm looking to do is make sure that we instill confidence in the bond rating folks to understand that Wakefield is in fact a AAA bond rated community for years to come, because that is going to save you tax dollars. If we lose that rating, if we get downgraded, that will cost you money. All of you know watching, I have been a fiscal watchdog. I have been for years talking about the idea of making sure we have sustainable budgeting practices so that we can be sure that we're in a healthy financial position. You think about losing Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, and Gronk the night before the Super Bowl. That's essentially what's happening with our finance team. I will offer a steady hand and reliable leadership that is trusted and proven during a very difficult time of change.
Thank you.
Drew.
Yeah, in the interest of sort of honesty and transparency, which folks have been speaking a lot about up here, I think it's honest and transparent to say that the Treasurer's ability to control our AAA bond rating is somewhat limited. There's a lot that we can do from a thoughtful investment management perspective, cash management, preparing for our bond surveillance meetings. But ultimately, the spending of the town is dictated by town council and through town meeting. And I respect that, you know, some folks want to be a watchdog or turn this into kind of a watchdog role, but that's not what this is. We're sort of managing the cards we're dealt. And there's a thoughtful way to do it, and there's a not thoughtful way to do it. And we can do a lot of things to help at the margin. But ultimately, the decisions that drive whether Wakefield maintains a AAA bond rating are made in town meeting and are made at town council. And if there are folks up here that are kind of particularly passionate about maintaining that rating, those are probably better forms to enact policies and mechanisms to make sure we keep it.
Thank you. Mike.
Brian, one of the reasons we probably are AAA rated is that we're a well-run town. We really are. And we also have significant reserves. Sometimes Councilor Nabrowski and I have thought maybe we had a little too many reserves. I know you can't have too much money in terms of the float, but basically you have to decide who do you think would be the best representative, who would have the most continuity, who would have the legacy knowledge to meld with our new town administrator and our new town accountant, because Kevin has indicated he's not staying forever also, in terms of meeting with the bonding agencies. I don't think that, because I haven't managed a mutual fund, I don't think that the bonding agencies are going to discount the fact that, I've been an attorney since 1983 and I've got significant background and I'm a certified public accountant. I think they're going to respect that background. And we have other people to make financial projections. We've had, God forbid we ever lose Dan Sherman, but we've had people that, that have done that work for us, and some of those folks can be hired if we need to hire them. But you really want somebody that can talk the talk, and you want somebody that they're going to respect, and somebody, I think, where they see some gravitas and they see some experience. And I think that I'm that person.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pete.
So I think this is critical as far as what's been said by the other candidates, specifically as far as what we need to do and the importance in maintaining the AAA rating and bond rating, and how it translates into saving money for the taxpayers. And how are we going to go out and how we're going to do that. And I think it all starts with continuing the level of high-performing financial management team that we have, and taking a look at that and finding a highly qualified finance professional with the experience, specific experience in building cash flow forecast templates, utilizing all the latest tools and technology, and bringing that to the position of town treasurer. Because as we've heard, and I agree, this is a critical time because we have the heightened awareness and scrutiny coming from S&P as the rating agency. It's also important for this town treasurer to be the face of the treasurer's office and be able to liaise with the rating agency and the banks and the other stakeholders such as Hilltop Security and the other banks. So it's really the relationship management skills, the technical skills, the detailed knowledge, the instincts that a finance professional has as far as constantly tick and tie, checking balances, and always making sure all the reconciliations are done. Because again, we have already received a cautionary note from S&P that they're scrutinizing how we manage our debt.
Thank you. All right, we have 12 minutes to 12:35 to go here. So I think we're going to do closing statements, okay? Rather than try and jam in, so nobody's squeezed on that, okay? So each candidate gets 2 minutes to wrap up here, and we're going to start again with Mr. Dombrowski.
Thank you, Bill and Brian, and thank you, WCAT. Again, thank you, everyone, for watching tonight. I sit before you tonight as the candidate at this table with the most municipal finance experience. And that matters. This is an incredibly important role during any time, but it's that much more important during the times we're heading into. We are borrowing the largest amounts in our town's history. We have a lot of borrowing still to do relative to the high school project. That is going to be a significant undertaking. At the same time, we are losing the entirety of our finance team. We are losing the continuity of almost 60 years of service between those three individuals. I will provide the steady hand of proven, trusted leadership. I have worked for the last 11 years for you, the taxpayers and residents of Wakefield. I have proven myself. You know what you're getting with me. You know my level of commitment. You know my level of understanding of the issues. I've demonstrated that day in and day out. And I will bring to this role a unique perspective because I have the most perspective of anyone sitting here at this table relative to the precise responsibilities and obligations of the town treasurer. You are entrusting one of the four individuals here with a lot, your tax dollars. There is nothing more important than making sure that I am managing your money as well as can possibly be managed. You will have from me leadership. I have proven leadership. This is a department that demands leadership. I will work collaboratively with a very talented team of professionals, both within the department and across the spectrum, from bond rating agencies to any of the other professionals that are part of making sure that Wakefield's future is stronger and brighter. Thank you. And I'm asking for your vote on April 22nd.
Thank you. I've been focused my entire career on investment management, and while I think there's been a lot said about experience broadly, I think to bring it back to what the treasurer is all about, it's about responsible stewardship of capital. And I lean on the stewardship of capital and the investment component, where I believe my experience at Cambridge Associates and now at Nixon Peabody Trust Company, again, one of the largest law firms in Boston, managing assets directly, making thoughtful asset versus liability decisions is the person that you want in this seat today. In addition, I think it's time to start to pass the torch in Wakefield to someone who is clearly qualified, but also a next generation leader. I think without the opportunity to do that, it's a loss for the town. My wife and I are starting a family here. We plan to be here for decades and decades to come. And relative to the other candidates up here, I'm just not sure you can find better alignment than that. Thank you.
I'm Mike McLean, and I'm asking you for your vote on the 22nd. With all due respect to passing the torch, I think experience is extremely important. I think a lifetime of work experience is extremely important. I know I laud Councilor Dombrowski for his work as managing partner of his firm, as a treasurer of the Mass Bar, but these things take time. So does developing a career, as young Mr. McCarthy is doing. I'm at a different end, but despite an article I noticed in the paper, I'm not sleepy. I ran a half marathon at age 63 at a 9-minute pace, and I have plenty of energy for this job. And in terms of passing the torch, young men can take it when and if I am done with it. We have significant issues ahead of us, but I think that the town's finances are in good shape. I hear a lot of panic about the borrowing, but the borrowing, pursuant to a massive vote, was funded by a debt exclusion. The bonding companies know this. The bonding companies understand this. They are starting to ask other questions. People say there's nothing to do with policy. We'll talk to Steve Mayo. They're asking him how we're doing with CO2 emissions. I mean, they're asking him all kinds of things. So it's good to have somebody that has that complete knowledge from front to back, 4 years, in a 3-year term, oftentimes with the support of my vice chair. I became vice chair and chair in one 3-year term. That is stepping up. That's because somebody else got a promotion and was too busy, and I was still working full time, but I stepped up. And that is what I will do here. I will go into this. I totally agree with Mr. McManama. We should have a more, you might not have the exposure of a town councilor, but you should definitely, I think, have more exposure. You should not be a ghost. You should be out there, and you should be in the community and letting the community know what your job is and what you are doing. Thank you very much, and I ask you for your support.
So Massachusetts general laws allows each town to determine whether they want their town treasurer, certain positions, town treasurer, to be an elected position or an appointed position. In our town charter calls for our town treasurer to be an elected position. But I look upon this as really, it is an appointed position. It's appointed by the voters, the taxpayers, the residents of Wakefield. So on April 22nd, I'm asking the residents of Wakefield to go ahead. They're the hiring manager. They're the chief executive officer of this town of Wakefield. And I'm asking them to go ahead and prepare just as if they were going to hire someone in their own personal life or professional life. If they were going to hire someone to do their electrical work or their plumbing work, go ahead and do the research and look at what are the qualifications required to be a town treasurer in the state of Massachusetts. Go ahead and do a search on Google or ChatGPT or the Division of Local Services and ask the question, what are the qualifications to be a town treasurer in the state of Massachusetts? And what you're going to find are 4 or 5 common bullets. The qualified candidate should have an undergraduate or a graduate degree in accounting or finance. They should have multiple years experience in financial analysis, cash management, and other finance-related duties. They should have distinctions and accreditations in the finance space. 4th, they should have very strong collaboration, team building, and communication skills. So once you, as the voters, have all of that, you should look at that, compare it to the candidates, and then make a selection, and then also vote for the candidate who is going to vote for you and only for you, because you deserve that. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I would like to thank Mr. Cusack for his insightful questions. I'm dead serious. Yeah, I've done a lot of these. I've done more than I care to remember, and these were great questions. It is a pretty specific office you're running for, more than just selectmen or school committee. I want to say that. The other thing I want to say is this is a really qualified panel. You folks have a difficult decision coming up, because these are four very, very qualified, very articulate gentlemen who are running for this position. And I know more about town treasurer now than I ever knew, or want to know. So anyway, I want to thank WCAT. I do this at the end of town meeting. I do this at the end of these debates. I always say this. This is an amazing place. I'm on the board. I drank the Kool-Aid years ago. But they do, I mean, this is a phenomenal service that they provide for the community to have this opportunity to educate yourselves to vote. And that is the most important thing. Make sure that you vote, not only for these candidates, but for everyone on the ballot. It's just important to get out there. I won't say why it's important this time or this climate. I won't do that. But anyway, I want to thank everybody here. I want to thank everybody for CAT. I want to thank you guys for putting in the time and effort and running for this office. And I'm serious. I've done a lot of panels here. There's been some interesting candidate debates over the years. This one was like, oh, great. We're having an intelligent discussion about what really matters for this office. Okay? So thanks a lot, and good night, and make sure you vote. Thank you. Bye-bye.